Hi, I want to do a video about imagery and mental illness, and specifically depression. I mean, there's other imagery and other illnesses that I feel you see a lot, but personally, I can relate to how imagery affects me with depression. By imagery, I'm on about things that you see or stereotypes of depressed people and why they need calling out. People who are supposed to be helping you or treating you use that imagery, and one of these organisations is the NHS. The NHS and their mental health team sent me some lovely booklets.
Depression and low mood.
Can I just add, these booklets replaced my treatment that I was supposed to get. I was referred by my GP to see a team. There's like primary and secondary treatment. So primary is like the treatment that if you basically, I think, are at harm to yourself and other people. I don't know how you get onto it because it's half impossible to get treatment. People who need beds get denied treatment. I do not know how you get there because there's no funding, and to be fair, that's not the NHS's fault. Yeah, so there's primary and secondary treatment. I wasn't suicidal enough for the primary treatment. I was too suicidal for the secondary treatment, so I got denied and I got thrown around the ton of services. I was never ever seen once by a psychiatrist or anybody who knew anything about mental health. I was seen by a social worker and a nurse and another nurse who they all said that we don't know anything about mental health, and then they all sent me away. I left each thing with a leaflet, but these were sent to me through the post, and if you can believe it, they actually charge for these normally. Like, I don't know. I think it was like you can have X amount of booklets for £20. Who wants to pay £20 for this trash? If you're going to pay £20, you'd put it towards something that can actually help you, because these, I am about to break down to you why I find these disgusting. Let's start with the title, Depression and Low Mood. There is another booklet, Depression. I don't know what the difference is because low mood is a symptom of depression. If you have depression, you are going to suffer from extremely low mood. It's a mood disorder. Depression is low mood. It's the same thing. I don't really understand, but hey. We've got like examples. I can't read the whole thing out, but we've got examples here. I don't know if it's actual real people what they've said. They're examples of, how depression feels or what depression is. I feel so alone. I never see my friends now. I guess they have dropped me. This is just one example. They probably don't like me. Who would? There's no point in making an effort. It doesn't pay off. I just hate myself. Now, I don't know if this is legit people who have said this or if it's written by the author, but I feel like it's a very stereotyped view of somebody who is depressed. Like, I feel like of anything that they could have chosen, it is sort of putting depression again into this bubble of this is depression, like this is the label of depression. Now, I can't say that isn't somebody's depression, but I just feel that it's not very broad. It just irritated me, and then it's really patronising. From there, the author's writing. The booklet goes on to talk about depression. You may have had similar thoughts yourself. Depression is a very common problem, and many people feel low or down in the dumps at times. This is often due to life stresses such as bereavement, money, or housing problems, or difficulties in relationships. For some people, the problem becomes much worse and gets in the way of normal life. If you're being sent this booklet by the NHS, if you're being sent this, or if you've got this, or if you've been given this, why do you need an explanation of depression? Is that just me? Down in the dumps at times, no, that's why I've got this booklet, because it's not at times, it's constantly. I have an illness constantly, and I wouldn't describe it as down in the dumps either. I don't understand. I don't get it. It's a self-help guide. You know what depression is. It says self-help on the title. It may seem that nothing can be done to help you feel better, but there are things you can do to make a difference. There's also further help you can get if depression does not seem to be getting better. What further help? I'd like to know, because this is an NHS booklet and I can't get further help off the NHS. So what help do you actually mean? Or is that just a lie? Are you just trying to pretend? I don't really get that. Whatever. It's almost like, go away, do this yourself. Therapy is very much you-based, but it's also the fact that you need help with seeing how to change. And it's not like, read this book and you'll be better. So throw this book at me and it will replace treatment, because it's so me-based. It wasn't written for the generic public. I could find a lot of this information online if I really wanted to. Like, a lot of this is probably on their site. If I wanted the meaning of depression, I could Google it. And then it goes on to repeat itself. Life is sometimes difficult, and it talks about low income and the reasons why you might feel down, and research and stuff. But then we go on to these examples here, like this section now. Now, I will read these out. Here are a few examples. Perhaps you can think about some examples of depressed thinking in yourself or someone else you know who has depression. Here are a few examples. The successful businessman who believes he is on the brink of bankruptcy. The caring mother who thinks she has lost interest in her children. The clever student who thinks he can't concentrate and is stupid. The hard-working man who thinks he is useless because he has lost his job. Gender stereotyping in a medical booklet that is designed for people who have mental illnesses, people from all different walks of life, all different ages. Anybody can have a mental illness. Gender stereotyping. The man being strong and working, and the woman being caring and having children. Like, the only reason a woman could be depressed was because of children, and because she isn't caring enough. And the only reason that a man could be depressed is because of money and work. Wouldn't it be cool if they didn't do that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the man who's caring and this, that, and the other. This is the kind of stigma that means that men are more likely to commit suicide than women, because men are never allowed to be caring and cry and do all these things. This is precisely the problem with the stigma. And it's coming out of an NHS booklet. I'm angry. Then you've got a fucking bloody checklist. Why? Look at this. Most people who have an illness know that they've got the illness. That's why they're reading this book. You don't need to tick a checklist of symptoms you're experiencing unless you don't know and you can find all this online. Like, if you've paid for this book, I feel sorry for you, because you've just been let down. Research now tells us that gloomy thoughts plays an important role in depression. When someone is depressed, there are usually changes in the way they feel their emotions. And I mean, how stupid do you think I am? I have been through countless questionnaires. Mind do them, and I respect Mind, because they're on very, very tight money, and they have to do work that these people don't do, and they have to keep up with it. And yeah, they do have to sort of say, like, well, you need help more than you because we don't have enough money, so we'll have to put you on a waiting list. But this is just taking the piss, man. Everybody knows the symptoms of depression if they have depression. Like, there isn't a person that doesn't know. Like, there isn't a person out there that does not know what depression is if they have it themselves. I don't understand the whole checklist. It's aimed as a self-help guide, so that kind of implies that you know what it is anyway. How can I understand these feelings? Well, this doesn't annoy me, because I feel like understanding why you feel something can help you recover. You might feel frustrated all the time, and then if you can think of an example in your life where the frustration started, you can sort of pin it down and say, well, this is why I get frustrated, and this is how I can maybe work with the frustration. But it's not this part doesn't annoy me, but the bottom then goes on to do this. The vicious cycle can look like this. Can we just clear it up once and for all? Depression or any other illness under the sun, doesn't matter if it's a mental illness or a physical illness, it does not look a certain way.
It does not look a certain way.
No two people with depression look a certain way. No person with depression that I know has ever done this. Ever. In fact, that guy looks like he's face palming because he's so fucking fed up with this bullshit. Please stop portraying depressed people like this. Like, resume the position, you're depressed. Head in your hands and over your knees, you're depressed. Crying, you're depressed. Stop. This is not cool. This does not look like depression. Depression can't look a certain way. This is imagery that is dangerous, because that means that the people that I've worked with when I was supposed to be getting treatment, this is the kind of thing they're probably looking for, because they don't know anything about mental illness. They even said that themselves. Like, you may as well get a police officer to treat someone with, like, I don't know, AIDS. Well, you're a police officer. We don't have any funding, so you can treat this person with AIDS. I know you won't have a clue what to do, but you treat them, it's fine. Like, you have no idea, but just see what happens. People with mental illnesses are not experiments, and they aren't stupid. I can see that this is taking the piss. Google depression. All these types of images come up. And it means that it spreads this false portrayal, if you like, that people who are depressed look a certain way. You might think, well, what's the issue with that? Well, that means that people expect you to act a certain way and be a certain way. If you're like, you get stupid comments like, well, you don't seem depressed to me. Well, what does depressed look like? And the reason they say things like that is because of this type of imagery. They've seen this type of imagery. It's just so frustrating, and I just find it sick that the NHS are actually doing this. Has a similar cycle happened to you? Try and draw it out. No. I can understand, draw out an illness. Draw out your cancer. Draw what it looks like. You can't look a certain way. What are you going to do? Draw someone with a bald head? What? I can understand writing things down, like that makes sense to me. Or maybe drawing out your emotions, like things like that really help people, like, because it's creative. So if you can imagine, like, I don't know, being angry, what does being angry look like to you? Being creative with like paints and stuff, and they'll paint like what being angry is to them. It really helps them, and they can say, well, this is why this is here, and this is why I've done this colour, and this is why I've done this, and it helps them to sort of come to understand it and break it down. But to give this idea to people that you can draw out your illness, to draw what depression looks like, I just find that so, it's just bullshit, isn't it? Like, I'm sorry. The next part, we have this man in a bubble with a thought bubble. I'm sorry, I'll remove my post-it notes. We have this man with a thought bubble that says, I'm no good. People don't like me. I'm a bad mixer. I look ugly. I just find it so stereotyped again. Like, I'm not saying that people who are depressed don't think these things, because, yeah, they do, but depression isn't all about your self-image, and it can be other things. Like, you can, and why are they calling them gloomy thoughts? Like, what is a gloomy thought when it's at home? Like, what the hell? Gloomy thoughts. And why is it almost this push again? It's this push, like, you know how we've already discussed happiness? Well, it's this thing where it's like, you shouldn't be feeling like this because it's gloomy. Like, you should focus on positive stuff all the time. Like, even if something is in your life is terrible, there's no recognition in this whole booklet that what you're feeling might be legitimate. Like, the way that you feel might be because of the way you're living. It's literally, well, it's all in your head type. It's kind of like that. And I'm not saying you should be depressed, but for example, if something's just happened to me, like a big deal in my life, like I was bullied at school, well, I'm not going to be happy about it. It's not in my head. It's not my fault that I feel like crap about myself. It is literally because other people ripped out at me at school. There's no breaking it down. I like this whole idea that you write things down. So, I look ugly, you can say to someone, that is a perception of yourself. But people don't like me, you can also say, yeah, that's a perception of yourself. But this whole idea that you shouldn't be feeling it comes across to me, and I don't think that's right. I don't think you can tell someone how to feel. Again, this is a further example of what I'm trying to say. These thoughts are sometimes about other things such as the world around you or the future. For example, people are unkind, the world is a horrible place, nothing will work out well. Now, people are unkind and the world is a horrible place are just facts. Like, you can't stop someone being depressed over facts. I mean, look at now, Donald Trump is, like, in charge of the USA. Oh dear. What is there to be depressed about? Oh, nothing. It's just a lot of people are now in danger and very, very oppressed. Nothing's wrong with that. Like, it's just you and your depression. Like, there's no acknowledgement of the fact that this is a legit reason to be sad. Like, it's a legit reason. If you feel like shit because someone is a homophobe and they're in charge of the country, or someone is racist and they're in charge of the country, yeah, you have a legit reason to feel like rubbish. And this idea that is almost portraying like, well, these are just your thoughts, it's probably not even true. You're not stating good examples at all. People are unkind and the world is a horrible place. They're just facts. That's just a fact. Nobody likes everybody. There's always somebody that is horrible to you. There always is. There always is. I mean, nothing will work out well. That is usually your perception. Like, what I find with that, if you are one of these people that struggles with seeing the future, or you struggle with always putting like negative aspects on the future, try writing it down what you're worried about. So, for example, let's take an exam. I was worried that I wouldn't submit my work all last year because of my depression, and I thought I was going to fail. I wrote down what I thought was the issue and what I saw being the outcome. And then after the event had happened, I wrote down what actually was the outcome. And if you keep doing that, you can kind of see that a lot of the time the things that you assume are wrong. That helped me. It might not help you, but it did help me. The other thing that I have the issue with is not the writing things down. It's literally the fact that it never explains why you should be writing it down. Like, it never says, well, this is why it might help. There's this thing that if you write something out on paper, you're like almost like physically getting it out of your system, and that can help psychologically because it's just a psychological thing. It's a bit like placebos, really. I'm not an expert. That's as far as I know. I mean, the whole just think about the good stuff isn't helpful. With an illness, you have to accept that the things, if you've done bad things and your illness is a result of that, if you like, you can't change them, but you have to see what you can change and accept what you can't. And that's sort of what it should be telling you, not really like everything is happy. I do like all this part. I've got to admit, this is alright. It's getting you to write things down. Again, it's kind of patronising. It's like I feel what's more effective is that not the assumption that we are a collective and a group of people. It's more like you have depression, you have an illness. Let's be honest, a lot of people don't understand depression and this whole we thing that they use we constantly throughout this book, and I just find it a bit patronising. Maybe that's just me. I like this thing about ignoring positive because it is true. People with depression have a tendency to ignore the good things, but this whole idea that everything is good, I think, is wrong. It gives you steps and things to do. Like on this next page. List things to do, mix with people, join in activities, take exercise, do things you enjoy. The problem with this is because they sent me this booklet after they denied my treatment, it's not really helpful. Like, if I wanted a self-help booklet, I would have gone out and bought one myself. In fact, I did buy a self-help book myself, and it's very good. I've got a few I can show you if you like. It's almost like, well, it's this simple, just do things you enjoy. Yeah, they are steps. it doesn't explain anything. It just sort of throws all this stuff at you, lists things to do. That's easier said than done. If you've got depression, you could have 10 lists. Maybe it overwhelms you. Maybe you just don't want to do it, or you can't make yourself do it. I just find it so patronising. Joining activities, yeah, that's great. What if you don't have any money? Or what if, like, your local council or your government doesn't have any funding for people who have depression, so they can't run anything free for you to go to socialise? Never cover any of this. Make a daily plan, that's pretty good. I like that. It's pretty good. But again, where's the support to back this book up? Like, it's all right if you've got this book and you've got support, but I can get support. So, and then it goes on. This is what really annoys me. It goes on to say further help. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the many lists. They've sent me many lists of organisations I can contact through the post, except some of them aren't relevant to me. For example, I don't have an alcohol problem. I don't have postnatal depression. I don't have bipolar. I'm not grieving for somebody. Blah, blah, blah. And I have contacted some of these people. But the reason that I went to the NHS is because I actually need their support. I need treatment for my illness. I don't want to be sent elsewhere. I don't want to be sent round in circles or referred to other people, or have to keep, like, using Mind all the time, because Mind I'm now back for the third time. I was put on their priority, and they are seeing me again. And as much as I love that, I feel like they wouldn't be struggling if the NHS did their job properly, and if it wasn't run by people who were inadequate. And I've been given this leaflet almost as if, well, this is the answer, go away. I've got no support with this leaflet. I was sent a thing the other day because my doctor's appealed, but the only reason they're contacting me again is because my doctor's been like, well, hey, she's had a 10-year-old illness. You've seen her for an hour and decided she doesn't need help. Or why has she been suffering for 10 years then? I've gone to seek help, but I keep being given these things about how I need to go and get help, but then they deny me the help. So what are you actually saying? Is it just so that you look like you're doing something? Samaritans are very good too. I've rung Samaritans. Don't ever be embarrassed if you feel like you cannot cope. You don't have to be suicidal to ring Samaritans, but if you feel like you can't cope and you just want to talk to someone, ring Samaritans. They're really good. They actually, I have to give them credit. Here, they've got references for books. I have one of these books. It's called Overcoming Depression, A Guide to Recovery with a Complete Self-Help Program. It's really good, and I would recommend it as well as, like, therapy. I would recommend it alongside that. I don't always think that it's very easy to read a book because you can just find it frustrating. I'm not saying it's a cure. Like, I'm not claiming any of these things to be a cure, but it can help you. You have to be in a positive mindset about recovery. You can't be like, well, it's not going to work. So in summary, the NHS is a load of shit, and this guide isn't all bad, but it's the way it's used is bad. The imagery is bad. The idea that I'm being given services that won't actually help me is bad. And the idea that this is being given to me in replacement of treatment is bad, like real treatment, like not just some person that's written a help guide and has no idea treatment. And it could be less patronising. The other thing that really annoyed me though was, as well as that book, I got a stress guide, anxiety guide. I do have anxiety, but self-harm, because if I have depression,
I must self-harm too.
no, like, whoever sent me these leaflets did not check my notes, and that could be through a lack of time, which is also bad. Like, you should have time to check somebody's notes. You should have time to look on a computer and check someone's notes and make sure that you're sending them the leaflets relevant to their situation. But no, let's just throw in a self-harm guide because she's depressed, she must self-harm too. I'm not going to go through this self-harm guide because this video will be really long, and because I don't self-harm, so I really don't know how helpful this is to somebody who self-harms. But if it's anything like I experienced with that depression booklet, then it's probably not helpful at all, and I don't recommend it. Anxiety, if they could include GIFs in in booklets or gifs or whatever you want to call them, I'm pretty sure there would be like little pictures of girls quivering in the corner and like this because of the imagery in that book. I've not read this either. It's just the same trash. I mean, the depression one really annoyed me. I looked at it, threw it down, and I thought, I'm going to do a video on that. Stress. Stress isn't a mental illness. It can have really bad side effects, but to group my depression with stress and treat me the way they've treated me just annoys me. Like, you are causing me more stress by sending me these booklets, by denying me treatment, and then taking a piss by sending me a booklet about stress. I know how stress feels, I know what stress is, and I know that at the end of it all, I'm not going to get any help with it, so thanks. That is why, guys, I want you, if you see imagery anywhere on the internet, on Facebook, on Twitter, on a poster and at the bus stop, call it out. However you feel is necessary to call it out. If you have been treated like shit by a nurse that knows nothing about mental illness but is bullying you, basically, call it out. Make a complaint. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Twitter. If you see somebody retweeting something like, depression is a sign that you've been strong for too long. No, call it out. Depression isn't a sign, it's an illness. Cancer isn't a sign that you've been out in the sun for too long. It's an illness. We need to stop romanticizing it. We can't normalize it. It's becoming more common within people, like, to have a mental illness, but we don't want to normalize it to the stage where mental illness is just cool. And I feel like it's getting there. I feel like OCD is now something everybody has, because they straightened the picture. Depression is something everybody has, because sometimes I feel sad too when I run out of cookies. No, to stop normalizing it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's kind of opened your eyes. Have a nice day, and if you like this video, please subscribe, and please don't hate me for talking too much. Bye.